You settle into watching an IPL match, and you're kind of expecting the usual, right? The roar of the crowd, maybe some flashy lights, the DJ pumping up the volume.
Absolute, that whole high-energy spectacle.
But you flag something really, really unique happening over in Lucknow. The Super Giants, at their home ground, Ekana Stadium. They're not starting off with that usual stuff.
No, it's quite different.
Before every single home game, there's actually a puja, like a proper traditional prayer ceremony. And we're not just talking a quick blessing here. It's the Ganesha arti, that incredibly soothing and familiar melody. It really made me stop and think, what's the story?
Yeah, what's going on there?
Why this specific blend, faith and, well, this incredibly fast-paced cricket? What's it telling us about the Lucknow team, maybe the IPL itself, and perhaps even something, I don't know, deeper about India?
It's a fascinating collision, isn't it? You've got this very modern, almost hyper-modern world of professional sport, and it's deliberately intersecting with something so deeply rooted in ancient tradition.
Yeah.
It just immediately sparks questions, like you said. What's the real intention? Is it symbolic? What kind of impact does it actually have? And culturally, what does it signify in this, very commercialized context? It's definitely not your standard pre-game hype routine.
Absolutely not. Just try and picture the scene for a second. It's that moment before the stadium gets completely electric.
Right, that calm before the storm.
You can sort of hear the early buzz, the crowd filtering in, maybe a distant announcement echoing. And then, in this specific spot at Ekana, the South Corridor, the South Block, apparently there's this completely different kind of energy building.
Okay.
We understand that before each LSG home match, this proper puja takes place.
A full ritual.
Yeah, the air filled with that distinctive smell of agarbati, the incense.
Oh, yeah, very evocative.
And then you hear it, the Ganesh arti. And it's not just some, generic track. It's that really iconic, powerful rendition by Anuradha Paudwal.
Wow, that specific one. That carries weight.
It really does. It's quite a sonic and, sensory experience to imagine just before a big T20 match kicks off.
It definitely paints a picture of a deliberate pause, doesn't it? A moment of stillness before all the intensity just washes over everything.
Exactly.
And choosing to ground the whole thing in something so familiar, so culturally significant for so many people in India.
Yeah.
It feels like a very conscious decision.
It does. And look, from what we've gathered, this isn't some, small hidden affair either.
Okay.
The CEO of the Lucknow Super Giants, Vinay Chopra, he has openly confirmed it happens before every single home game.
Right. So it's official policy almost.
Yeah, and he actually sounded really enthusiastic about it. It's genuinely part of the team's fabric now.
Interesting.
He mentioned that, participation is voluntary for players and staff.
Right. They're not forcing anyone.
No, but it's generally seen as a collective thing, a team moment.
Yeah.
You can almost visualize it, can't you?
Yeah.
This incredibly diverse group.
Yeah.
Maybe like a lightning-fast bowler from the Caribbean standing next to a local spinner from UP. Both maybe just pausing during the arty or just, absorbing the atmosphere. It feels like it could be quite a unifying force.
That image is really striking. Players from completely different backgrounds, different cultures, coming together for this specific ritual.
Yeah.
It suggests a certain inclusivity, doesn't it? A shared respect, or at least an understanding for these practices within the team culture. It seems to move beyond just individual beliefs and become something the whole team kind of experiences together. It makes you wonder how these moments might actually build camaraderie, that shared purpose.
And, there's always that little voice, the skeptical side.
Sure.
Whispering, isn't this just, a bit of PR?
The cynical take.
Right. But talking to people, looking at how consistently they do this, it really does seem to be more about setting a specific internal tone.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. In a sport where the pressure is just relentless, every single ball is analyzed, scrutinized.
Non-stop.
Maybe this pre-match puja is that kind of collective deep breath before the storm hits.
Yeah, like a mental reset button.
Exactly. A moment to find some calm, some focus, before stepping out into that incredibly high-pressure environment, both physically on the field and mentally, too.
That perspective on mental prep really resonates. I mean, in such a high-stakes game, having any routine that helps focus and encourages a positive mindset that can be genuinely invaluable.
Yeah.
It's about centering themselves, maybe, as a unit, before the competition really kicks in.
Now, the choice of the Ganesh Arti itself.
Yeah.
That's so specific. It's not just any prayer, is it?
Yeah.
Lord Ganesha holds such powerful significance.
Oh, absolutely. Ganesha is, widely revered as the remover of obstacles, right?
Yeah.
The deity you turn to for new beginnings, for wisdom, for good fortune.
All things you'd want in cricket.
Exactly. When you think about a cricket match context, every game is a new beginning. Every opponent presents obstacles, and let's be honest, every team is hoping for a bit of good fortune.
Definitely.
So invoking Ganesha like this feels particularly fitting. You could almost see him as the spiritual cornerstone of what they're trying to do, the one they're asking to clear the path to victory, essentially.
And then there's that specific rendition on Radha Podwal's version of the Arti.
Yeah.
It's just so instantly recognizable, isn't it? Yeah. So deeply embedded in the cultural consciousness.
He really is iconic.
It's more than just the words, you know? It carries this incredible emotional weight, this sense of reverence, maybe even a feeling of inspiration for people who connect with it.
Oh, for sure.
It makes you wonder if the team, specifically chose that version for its impact, for the feelings it evokes.
It seems highly likely it was a very deliberate choice. Yep. That rendition, as you say, has a certain cultural weight. It's incredibly popular. It could act as this powerful collective touchstone, instantly recognizable, potentially deeply inspiring for players and a big chunk of their fan base, reminding them of shared values, shared traditions.
It also makes you curious about how this whole tradition even started within the team.
Right, the origin story.
You can almost imagine the early brainstorming sessions, right? Okay, guys, how do we make our home games feel different, special?
Yeah, do we need a better DJ, more fireworks?
Exactly. And then maybe someone pipes up, what about a traditional puja?
It's such a departure, isn't it?
It really is. A distinct departure from that typical sports entertainment formula. It's like they consciously decided, okay, let's trade the expected flash and bang.
For something maybe more authentic.
Yeah. And maybe, in its own quiet way, even more impactful because it's so unique. Instead of pyrotechnics, you've got prasad.
That contrast is definitely striking. In a league where every single franchise is desperately trying to create a memorable spectacle, LSG has chosen something, more subtle, yet potentially deeply resonant with a huge part of their audience. It suggests a certain confidence, maybe in their own cultural identity, and a willingness to stand out, but in a different way.
Okay, so LSG has this really consistent pre-match thing going on. What about the other teams in the IPL? Are they all, doing similar stuff before they run out?
Well, it seems like LSG's consistent public puja is actually quite unique in its regularity.
Really?
Yeah. While other teams might have their own, private rituals or moments of reflection, they don't seem to be as consistent or as openly practiced.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, look at the Punjab Kings. They did have a havan, a sacred fire ritual.
Oh, right. I heard about that.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the 2025 season when they moved into their new home ground in Mulkin Chandigarh. And interestingly, even their coach, Ricky Ponting, apparently participated in that one.
Ricky Ponting.
Yeah.
At a have. Wow, okay, the ultimate competitor getting involved. That's quite a picture.
It is, isn't it? And a team spokesperson mentioned they did these rituals both before the tournament started, seeking blessings for the whole season.
Right, makes sense.
And also specifically before their very first game up in Dharamsala. So it gives the impression that for PBKS, it's maybe more of a big event thing, a season opener practice.
Like marking key moments.
Exactly. Perhaps a way of seeking good fortune at those crucial junctures. It feels less like a weekly routine and more like a focused invocation at important times.
Okay, so more situational for Punjab.
Yeah.
What about a team like Chennai Super Kings? CSK, they've got this huge fan base, this legacy, Dhoni's aura. What's their deal?
Well, interestingly, CSK seems to lean much more towards an individual approach when it comes to faith.
How so?
Their CEO, Kasi Viswanathan, he was actually in Lucknow for a match against LSG, funnily enough.
Okay.
And he mentioned that while he personally is a devout follower of Ganesha, prays regularly.
Right.
As a team, they don't actually have collective prayer sessions at Chepauk, their home ground.
Oh, really? No team prayers at Chepauk?
Doesn't sound like it. It seems their team culture allows for personal expressions of faith, sure, but it doesn't mandate or organize a collective pregame ritual. Maybe, with their established track record, that almost iconic presence of someone like MS Dhoni, they just operate with a different kind of team dynamic when it comes to pregame routines. Less need for that overt collective ritual, perhaps.
That do-your-own-thing approach definitely seems to fit with CSK's whole sort of understated confidence, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like they have their own successful formula, and it doesn't necessarily involve big team ceremonies before every single match.
Exactly. And then when you look across the rest of the IPL teams, you see even fewer examples of consistent, publicly acknowledged religious rituals before games.
So LSG really stands out.
They really do. I mean, some teams might have huddles with motivational talks. Players obviously have their own personal routines, superstitions maybe, but LSG's Puja is quite distinctive as this regular, established practice.
It just paints such a vivid picture of the IPL overall, this massive global spectacle. It's huge.
This real Hollywood blockbuster of cricket, as some call it, just bursting with energy, entertainment.
Nonstop action.
And right slap bang in the middle of all that, you've got this team engaging in this very traditional, very Indian ritual. It almost feels like a quiet statement, doesn't it?
It does.
A reminder, maybe, of the deeper cultural roots of the game in India, amidst all the glitz and the glamour.
It's a powerful reminder, I think, that even in this incredibly modern, globalized sporting league, cricket in India is just so deeply interwoven with culture.
Yeah.
With festivals, with family gatherings, and yes, with faith. It's not just about the runs and wickets. It's embedded right there in the social fabric of the nation.
And what's really compelling, I think, is the inclusivity aspect of this ritual.
How so?
Well, it doesn't seem to be something exclusive just for players of a particular religious background.
Right.
We hear about players like, say, Nicholas Puran from the West Indies, standing alongside Indian players like Ravi Bishnoi, both maybe participating in the RD.
That shared moment again? Exactly. It really highlights this shared respect, this kind of coming together regardless of individual beliefs. It doesn't feel like it's about converting anyone.
No, not at all.
It feels more about connecting on a human level through a shared cultural experience, maybe.
That's a really crucial observation. It really underscores that this ritual is likely much more about creating a shared team experience.
Right.
A moment of unity, collective focus, rather than a strictly religious obligation. It fosters that sense of togetherness that can cut across cultural differences and potentially really strengthen team cohesion.
You can almost hear the cynical voices, though, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Quipping, oh, what's next? A yagna for every 6 they hit.
A chuckles, yeah, taking it to the extreme.
And that really misses the point of what seems to be happening here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this feels much more grounded, much more about kind of humanizing these athletes.
Yeah.
They're not just these larger-than-life figures on a screen hitting massive sexes and doing endorsements.
Right, not just stats and brands.
No, they have these cultural connections, these moments of shared tradition that maybe add them back to their roots, or at least a root, regardless of where they actually come from.
Precisely. It adds another dimension to who they are, beyond just their on-field performance and their commercial value.
Yeah.
And it connects them to the fans on a deeper level, too, especially for those fans who see cricket as more than just a sport. It's tied up with their own identity, their cultural values. The Puja becomes this shared cultural touch point between the team and the community.
Okay, so the big question then, the one everyone probably wonders about, does it actually work?
Okay. $1 million question.
Yeah. Does this pre-match puja translate into, actual wins on the field?
Well, look, as of that snapshot in time, April 14th, 2025, the Lucknow Super Giants were actually doing pretty well.
Okay.
They were holding a fairly strong position in the IPL standings, sitting in 4th place, I think it was, with 4 wins out of 6 games.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. Now, can we definitively say that's a direct result of the puja?
Probably not provable.
Exactly. It's impossible to draw that causal link with any certainty. Is it coincidence? Is it, as some might joke, divine intervention?
Chuckles.
Or is it simply a case of a well-balanced team playing good cricket?
Which they presumably are.
Right. The reality is almost certainly a mix of factors, isn't it? With actual on-field performance being, the most significant driver.
Of course. At the end of the day, you still have to execute with bat and ball.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it certainly doesn't seem to be hurting them.
Not at all.
And it might well provide that valuable mental edge we talked about.
Right.
That moment to collectively reset, refocus before stepping into the pressure cooker of an IPL match.
It could very well contribute to a more positive, more unified team mindset. And, when you look at how some other teams were doing around that same time, for example, CSK, surprisingly, were near the bottom of the table then, with only 1 win.
Wow, that's unusual for them.
It was. And PBKS are somewhere in the middle. So you can't help but wonder, maybe just a little bit lightheartedly,
Chuckles. Go on.
could a bit of collective pregame prayer benefit some of the other franchises?
Maybe they should give it a try.
Who knows? But ultimately, as we both agree, consistent performance on the actual field is what dictates the win-loss record.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the fans. What's the vibe like at the Ekana Stadium, and how are they reacting to this pretty unique pre-match ritual?
Well, from everything we hear, the atmosphere at Ekana is just absolutely electric.
As you'd expect for the IPL.
Totally. IPL fans across India are known for their incredible passion, and the supporters in Lucknow are definitely no exception.
And the Puja, how does that fit in?
It seems like this pre-match Puja really resonates with them, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not just something the team does off in a corner. It becomes this shared experience, especially for those who get to the stadium early enough to see it or feel it.
It's a connection.
Exactly, a deeper connection between the team and the local community. It's like an acknowledgement of those shared cultural roots right before the big action starts.
Right. And social media must be buzzing about it too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're seeing fans on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, talking a lot about the overall vibes at Ekana.
Vibes, right? The key word.
Yeah, sharing little snippets, clips of the Artie maybe. It's clearly something that's capturing attention and sparking a lot of conversation online.
What kind of comments are you seeing?
Well, we've seen loads using that term vibes, just encapsulating that positive, maybe slightly different atmosphere they feel at the ground. And some of the comments are great. They cleverly mix faith and humor about the team's performance. Like, I saw one fan joking, if Lord Ganesha can't sort out our middle order batting, then nobody can.
That's brilliant.
It shows the fans kind of appreciate this blend, right? Tradition and cricket, and they're engaging with it in a really positive, sometimes quite funny way.
It's almost fun to just imagine some of the interactions within the team during the puja itself.
Yeah.
You've got players from all over the world, different beliefs, different backgrounds, all standing there for this shared moment.
Must be interesting.
You could almost picture, I don't know, a young Indian spinner maybe gently explaining what a particular part of the ritual means to a curious overseas player.
Or maybe just a more experienced player, regardless of their own personal faith, just appreciating that sense of calm, that collective focus the ritual brings right before they step into that intense pressure of an IPL game.
Yeah.
And you also have to wonder what goes through the minds of the opposition players.
Oh, good point.
If they happen to hear the familiar sounds of the Ganesh Arti drifting over from the LSG dressing room just moments before they're about to go out and battle them.
That's a fascinating thought. Creates this really interesting cultural contrast, right? This unexpected element in the whole pre-game mental warfare, maybe.
Chuckles? Could be.
And look, if LSG were to go all the way, if they actually lifted the IPL trophy in 2025, you know the question that would come up.
Inevitably.
Do they credit Lord Ganesha, or do they credit their star bowlers and batters?
And the answer, of course, would probably have to be a blend of both, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so.
You absolutely need the skill, the strategy, the sheer hard work, and maybe just that little touch of good fortune along the way, however you choose to interpret where that fortune comes from.
It brings a nice sense of balance back to it all.
It does. Faith and tradition can definitely play a part, shaping the environment, the mindset. But ultimately, it's the talent, the dedication, and the execution of those players out on the grass that determines the final results.
So as this IPL season keeps rolling, the Lucknow Supergiants pre-match Puja at Ekana Stadium, it just remains this really unique, really compelling blend of tradition and modernity right in the heart of this high-octane T20 world.
It really does.
It feels like it's about so much more than just, simple superstition. It seems to be about connection.
Connection's a good word for it.
Yeah, connecting to their cultural heritage, connecting with each other as a team on maybe a deeper level, and connecting with the spirit of the game itself in a way that feels very, very authentically Indian.
It illustrates beautifully how even in a globally dominant sport with all its own modern rituals and entertainment norms, there's still space and maybe even a real desire for these deeply rooted cultural practices to not just find a place, but to become a really distinctive and meaningful part of a team's identity.
Absolutely. So the next time you hear about the IPL, maybe just take a second, picture that scene, Ekana Stadium, before the first ball is even bowled. It is just a vivid reminder that in this incredibly fast-paced world of cricket, and maybe, in many other parts of our lives too, a grounding in tradition and perhaps just a touch of faith can be a really significant, really fascinating part of the whole story.
And it leaves you, the listener, maybe with a final thought to chew on. In a world that seems increasingly driven by data, by technology, by what we think of as purely rational, what other unexpected ways might tradition and culture continue to find their place and maybe even exert their influence in all sorts of modern globalized activities? It's definitely something worth pondering.